Hello, Darrel Smith here. My siblings and I were born and raised on a very small farm down in Tennessee. We were forced into the workforce pretty early out of necessity, but we also were given a lot of responsibilities. My brother and I were driving cars and tractors when we were as young as 9 years old. The story today is about a first solo squirrel hunt. My brother and I had about the same experience, and I wrote this story, and I had him in mind when I wrote it. So I will be saying he as if it's him, but actually I had the same experience, so it's all the same. So here we go. There was no alarm clock. We didn't have one in the house, and none was needed. He'd been wide awake for a full hour, and for the third time he slipped from beneath the covers and to look out the window past the roof of the kitchen, and past the old barn to the woods that was about a quarter mile away. The woods consisted of oak and beech trees mostly. It was fall of the year, and the colors were beautiful at that time. The night before, he had laid out his clothes, some jeans, his work shirt, and work shoes, and he had loaded his pockets of his jeans with 5 shotgun shells in the left and 6 in the right. His thinking was that when he loaded his gun, a single shot, out of his right pocket, he would be balanced. He'd have 5 shells on either side. Well, he dressed quietly and quickly and tried to sneak out of the house, but the squeaky stairs gave him away. His mother, who seemed never to sleep, said, "Son, be careful." And he said, "Yes, ma'am, I will." He always said ma'am when he talked to his mom. That's just the way they did in the South at that time. Through the screen door and down the concrete steps, he stopped momentarily, took a deep breath, and thought about the farm that he lived on. He could see the cows, hear them moving about. He could smell the sweet molasses smell from their feed, and he could probably smell cut hay. He walked across the driveway that went down to the dairy barn, climbed over a wooden gate into the cow lot, and the cows did not react at all. They knew him. He worked around them every day, and so even though he walked just a few feet from them, there was no reaction whatsoever. He climbed over the back gate and easily found the cow path that led down the ridge line and then down to the left into a valley where there was a small creek and the woods. As he progressed down the ridge line, he could see a slight fog, a bit of fog in the valleys, as the southern air always has a lot of moisture, and the slight cooling during the night had caused the fog. Just as he was about to go into the woods, he stopped by a huge beech tree that had a hole in it, and that hole was a home, and had been a home, for a wild honeybee hive for several years. They were never a danger. It was just that it was a curiosity. Well, he loaded his gun and then turned to go into the woods, and it was dark. He'd been in the woods many times, but the darkness was intimidating. So in his mind, he thought, what could be in there? A lion, a tiger, the devil himself? Well, his courage was waning, but he squared his shoulders and walked in. But as he's walking, he saw things that he didn't recognize. What was that big black lump? What are those white spots up in the trees? Anyway, we went to the creek, got to the creek, stepped onto the gravel and crunched the gravel And he said, "Oh no, I've made a big noise and no squirrel come out today." So he found his honey spot, sat down, and nothing happened. He got drowsy even. He could hear the milking equipment being assembled. And finally the compressor motor for the milkers came on, and he was feeling a little bit drowsy, and he knew he wasn't playing the role of a great hunter. So suddenly there was a noise behind him and up in the trees. He thought he saw movement. He looked, looked and looked, but nothing happened. He didn't see anything. He thought it must be a squirrel. But his neck started to hurt, and he looked forward again, and he was kind of dejected. He thought, failure. Then suddenly, up in front of him and up high in the tree, there was a noise again. And he threw the hammer back on that old shotgun, aimed it, and fired. And to his great surprise, the squirrel tumbled out to the ground. He went over and picked the squirrel up and looked him over, and there was no wounds, there was no blood. He was wondering if the squirrel was playing possum. Well, he sat there for a little bit, but couldn't stand the excitement, and he wanted to show the family that he had been a success. So I'm going to read one little paragraph here. This first hunt was the beginning of a lifetime of going into the fields and woods to search for game. As he grew older, his focus turned to the white-tailed deer that were becoming more plentiful in the area. He always enjoyed the process of the woods coming alive as the sunlight slowly illuminated their surroundings. Even at 70 years of age, a squirrel traveling through the trees still makes his heart beat a little faster. On that quiet morning in those damp Tennessee woods, hunting became a part of him for indeed the rest of his life. Thank you very much.